Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatha Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishikam Vitam Scha Om Jnana Timrandasya Gyanajana Shilakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhistam Supurkam Gurganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanugam Govindabhidam Ujwalam Varatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Bande Vishwagurun Shah Divyad Bhagavad Premnavi Bijapradam Devam Divyatanum Suchandamaranam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sareka Varanam Vairagya Vidyambudim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Banditam Shivaram Madeka Sharanam Nyashishvara Sridharam Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindu Bhyavascha Patitanam Pavenibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. We're reading from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is Madhya-lila chapter 8, talks between the Lord and Srila Ramananda Raya. Verse number 134. Paramaishwara Krishna Swayam Bhagavan Sarva Avatari Sarva Karana Pradhan. Ramananda Raya then began to speak on Krishna Tattva. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he said. He is personally the original Godhead, the source of all incarnations and the cause of all causes. Ananta Vaikuntha Ara, Ananta Avatar, Ananta Brahmanda Ihan, Sabara Adar. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets as well as innumerable incarnations. In the material world also, there are innumerable universes, and Krishna is the supreme resting place for all of them. Satchidananda Tanu Brajendra Nandan Sarvaishvarya Sarvashakti Sarvarasa Purna. The transcendental body of Sri Krishna is eternal and full of bliss and knowledge. He is the son of Nanda Maharaj. He is full of all opulences and potencies, as well as all spiritual rasas. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme controller. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, for he is the prime cause of all causes. So as Srila Maharaj would often comment, reality is by itself and for itself. And that's what this verse from Brahma Samhita emphasizes. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme controller, has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, for he is the prime cause of all causes. Vrindavane aprakrita navina madan kama gayatri kama bije jara upasan. In the spiritual realm of Vrindavan, Krishna is the spiritual ever-fresh Cupid. He is worshipped by the chanting of the Kama Gayatri mantra with the spiritual seed, Klim. Purusha Yoshit Kiba Stavara Jangam Sarva Chitta Karshaka Sakat Manmata Madan. The very name Krishna means that he attracts even Cupid. He is therefore attractive to everyone, male and female, moving and inert living entities. Indeed, Krishna is known as the all-attractive one. Tasam avirabhuts choris smayamana mukhambuja pitambara dara shragvi sakshan manmata. When Krishna left the Rasa-lila dance, the gopis became very morose, and when they were grieving, Krishna appeared dressed in yellow garments, wearing a flower garland and smiling. He was attractive even to Cupid. In this way, Krishna appeared among the gopis. Nana bhaktera rasamrita nana bidahoy se sab rasamritera vishaya ashroy. Each and every devotee has a certain type of transcendental mellow, or rasa, in relation to Krishna. But in all relationships, the devotee is the worshipper, ashray, and Krishna is the object of worship, vishai. Akila rasamrita murti prasrimara ruchi ruda taraka pali kalita shama lalito radaprayan vidur jayati. Let Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, be glorified. By virtue of his expanding attractive features, he subjugated the gopis named Taraka and Pali and absorbed the minds of Shama and Lalita. He is the most attractive lover of Srimati Radharani and is a reservoir of pleasure for devotees in all transcendental mellows, or all transcendental rasas. He is Akila Rasamrita Murti. It means everyone has a relationship, a sweet relationship with the Lord. Shringara Rasa Rajmoy Murtidar Atevatma Parjanta Sarvachitahar. Krishna is the all-attractive for devotees in all relationships or all mellows, because he is a personification of the conjugal mellow, or of Madhurya Ras, which is called here Shringara Ras. Krishna is attractive not only to all the devotees, but to himself as well. So here Ramananda Raya is describing the different qualities of Krishna, and then he'll describe the different qualities of Srimati Radharani. There's a conversation between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Raya, and this is considered like almost the essential chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Ramananda Sambad. Vishvesham anuranjanena janayan ananda indivara Shreni Shamala Komalar Upanayan Angar Anangotsavam Swachandam Raja Sundaribir Abita Prati Angam Alingita Shringara Saki Murtiman Eva Madho Mudgo Hari Kridati. My dear friends, just see Sri Krishna is enjoying the season of spring, with the gopis embracing each of his limbs. He is like Morris love personified. With his pastimes, he enlivens all the gopis and the entire creation. With his soft bluish black arms and legs, which resemble blue lotus flowers, he has created a festival for Cupid. Lakshmi Kundhare Avatarer Hareman Lakmi Adi Nari Ganer Kore Akarshan. He also attracts Narayan, who is the incarnation of Shankarshan and the husband of the goddess of fortune. He attracts not only Narayan, but also all women, headed by the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, the consort of Narayan. Dvijatmaja me yuvayor didrikshuna mayopanita bhuvi dharma guptaye kalavatirnav vaner barasuran hatveha bhuyas twarayetam antime Addressing Krishna and Arjuna, Lord Mahavishnu, the Mahapurush, said, I wanted to see both of you, and therefore I have brought the sons of the Brahman here. Both of you have appeared in the material world to reestablish religious principles, and you have both appeared here with all your potencies. After killing all the demons, please quickly return to the spiritual world. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam concerning Krishna's endeavor to take Arjuna beyond the material universe when Arjuna was searching for the sons of a Brahman. Lord Vishnu, who is situated beyond this material world, was also attracted by the bodily features of Krishna. Mahavishnu had actually stolen the sons of the Brahman in Dwarka so that Krishna and Arjuna would come visit him. This verse is quoted to show that Krishna is so attractive that he attracts Mahavishnu. So there's a story from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that one time when Krishna was in Dwarka, one Brahman said that he complained to Maharaj Yudhishthira, and he said that I am very disturbed and I think your kingdom is a complete failure because in the natural course of events, a father should never see that his sons will die before him. So his sons had died, and he wanted to lodge a formal complaint against the king. So then Krishna and Arjuna took up the case for the king, and he began searching for the dead sons, and he went to Varuna, he went to the kingdom of Yamaraj, everywhere. He looked for the Brahmins' dead sons, but they couldn't be found. And then finally, they went all the way up to Mahavishnu himself. And turns out that Mahavishnu had taken the sons of the Brahman because he knew that would eventually draw Krishna, in this case Krishna and Arjuna, to come get them. So he'd taken those sons. And then Krishna and Arjuna went to the kingdom of Mahavishnu, and then they brought back the Brahmin sons. So like this was what's being mentioned here. Addressing Krishna and Arjuna, Lord Mahavishnu, the Mahapurush, said, I wanted to see both of you, and therefore I brought the sons of the Brahman here. Both of you have appeared in the material world to reestablish religious principles, and you have both appeared here with all your potencies. After killing all the demons, please quickly return to the spiritual world. So he wanted to see them, so he made that arrangement. Mahavishnu. Kashyanu bhavoshan deva vidmahe tavangri renu sparashadikara yadvanshaya shrir lalana charatapo vihaya kamansu chiram drita vrata. O Lord, we do not know how the serpent Kaliya attained such an opportunity to be touched by the dust of your lotus feet. For this end, the goddess of fortune performed austerities for centuries, giving up all other desires and observing austere vows. Indeed, we do not know how this serpent Kaliya got such an opportunity. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken by the wives of the Kaliya serpent. They're called the Nagapatnis. The Kaliya serpent, he had been cursed. Well, the Kaliya serpent, he was very much afraid of Garuda. So, don't know the full description, but he went to take shelter in the Jamuna, but he's very poisonous snake, and anyone would go in the Jamuna would die from his poison. So, but in fact, all the cowherd boys who were accompanying Krishna, they were thinking that the water was of the Jamuna had become very poisonous, but they didn't care because they knew that Krishna would save them. So they entered into the water and they all died. And they're in water, and then the Kaliya serpent is there, and Krishna then began to, the Kaliya serpent had many hoods and jewels on the hoods, and Krishna dove into the Jamuna and he began dancing on the heads of the Kaliya serpent. He had many heads and hoods. And this way his dancing began subduing the serpent, who might have been seen to be dying. And but the Kaliya serpent, he had many wives, and they're called Nagapatnis, and they came. And this prayer is actually very nice. It's Kashyanu Babu Sha Nadeva Vidmaye Tavangri Renu Sparashadikara Yadvanshaya Shrir Lalana Charat Tapo Vihaya Kaman Su Chiram Drita Vrita. The Kaliya serpents were wives, the Nagapatnis were saying, we do not know how our snaky husband was able to get the mercy of Krishna, that the Lord is dancing on his hood, so he's getting Krishna's foot dust. And we don't, this, after all, our husband is a snake. So we do not know how he was able to get so much mercy that he's getting so much foot dust from Krishna. So they're saying, even, and one of the important parts of this, which is later quoted by Mahaprabhu when he's talking with Venkatabhata, he says, the Nagapatnis, the wives of Kaliya, say that as far as getting Krishna's foot dust, the goddess of fortune tried unsuccessfully for many centuries to try and get Krishna's foot dust. That means she tried to enter into the Rasa-lila, but she was totally unsuccessful. And why? Because she has what's called sense of Aishvarya Gyan, of opulence. I mean, she is the goddess of fortune. Opulence and sense of wealth and honor and prestige and reverence and everything. There's all that about the worship of Lakshmi Narayan. So because of that, we can say that attitude, she couldn't enter into Krishna's Leela, Krishna's Rasa Leela, but the what's called the personified Vedas, the Shrutigan, they were saying, we don't know about Krishna's Leela and we want to know, we want to enter in that. So they became like servants of the gopis. And then later they took birth in Vrindavan as gopis, and they were able to understand of Krishna's Leela. But the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, couldn't, because she had this, this royalness to her. Anyway, the wives, the Nagapatnis, are saying, "Oh Lord, we do not know how the serpent Kaliya, who's their husband, attained such an opportunity to be touched by the dust of your lotus feet. For this end, the goddess of fortune performed austerities for centuries, giving up all other desires and observing austere vows. Indeed, we do not know how the serpent Kaliya got such an opportunity." So Lakshmi did, she observed austerities for centuries, although she was unsuccessful, but she really tried hard. Apuna madhurye hare apanaraman apana apani chahe korite alingan. Lord Krishna's sweetness is so attractive that it steals away his own mind. Thus even he wants to embrace himself. Aparikalita purva kas chamatkarakari surati mama gariyan esha madhurya pura ayam aham api hanta priksha yam lubda cheda saravasam upabhoktum kamaye radikeva. Upon seeing his own reflection in a bejeweled pillar of his Dwarka palace, Krishna desired to embrace it, saying, "Alas, I have never seen such a person before. Who is he? Just by seeing him, I have become eager to embrace him, exactly like Srimati Radharani." This is from... So, but the idea is this. It is said that Krishna never takes one step out of Vrindavan. So, but Krishna went from Vrindavan to Mathura and to Dwarka. So how do we understand that? Because that's not the same Krishna. That's an expansion of Krishna, and that's called Vasudeva. But Krishna is always in Vrindavan. He's always in the hearts of his devotees. So when one time that we can say Dwarkadish, or the expansion of Krishna in Dwarka, he saw a reflection of himself in a jeweled pillar. But the reflection he saw isn't of the king of Dwarka. He sees the reflection as Krishna, like a cowherd boy. And then he becomes captivated by that vision of Krishna. And the name Krishna means he attracts everyone. So he attracts, in this case, you could say even attracts himself, but this is an expansion of Krishna, the king of Dwarka. So he's seeing Krishna, and like the gopis, everyone's becoming attracted. All the cowherd boys, everyone, they're all attracted by Krishna. And they're not thinking of Krishna as God, but they're just, everyone's attractive. The name Krishna means who attracts everyone. Eta shankepe kohila Krishnara swarup ebe shankepe kohe shuna radha tattvarup. Sri Ramananda Raya then said, "I have thus briefly explained the original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now let me describe the position of Srimati Radharani. Krishnera ananta shakti tatetin pradam. Krishnera ananta shakti tatetina pradan. Shid shakti maya shakti jiva shakti nam." Krishna has unlimited potencies, which can be divided into three main parts. These are the spiritual potency, the material potency, and the marginal potency, which is known as the living entities. Antaranga bahiranga tatasta kahijare, antaranga swarup shakti sabara upare. In other words, these are all potencies of God, internal, external, and marginal. By the internal potency is the Lord's, but the internal potency is the Lord's personal energy and stands over the other two. Vishnu Shakti para prokta kshetragyakya tatapara avidya karma samgyaya tritiya shakti ishyate. The original potency of Lord Vishnu is superior or spiritual, and the living entity actually belongs to the superior energy. But there is another energy called the material energy, and this third energy is full of ignorance. Satchidananda Maya Krishnara Sarup Ateva Swarup Shakti Hoitina Rup. Originally, Lord Krishna is Satchidananda Vigraha, the transcendental form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Therefore, his personal potency, the internal potency, has 3 different forms. Anandamshe ladini sadamshe sandini chidamshe samvit jare jnana korimani. Ladini is his aspect of bliss, sandini of eternal existence, and samvit of cognizance, which is also accepted as knowledge. Ladini sandini samvit tvayeka sarva samshaye lada tapa kori mishra tvayino gunavarjite. My dear Lord, you are the transcendental reservoir of all qualities. Your pleasure potency, existence potency, and knowledge potency are actually all one internal spiritual potency. The conditioned soul, although actually spiritual, sometimes experiences pleasure, sometimes pain, and sometimes a mixture of pain and pleasure. This is due to his being touched by matter. But because you're above all material qualities, these are not found in you. Your superior spiritual potency is completely transcendental, and for you, there is no such thing as relative pleasure, pleasure mixed with pain, or pain itself, because Krishna has no real contact with the material nature. Krishna ke alade tate namaladini chid se shakti dware sukha ashvare apani. The potency called Ladini gives Krishna transcendental pleasure. Through this pleasure potency, Krishna personally tastes all spiritual pleasure. Sukha Rupa Krishna Kori Sukha Ashradan Bhakta Gane Sukha Dite Ladini Karan. Lord Krishna tastes all kinds of happiness, although he himself is happiness personified. The pleasure relished by his pure devotee is also manifested by his pleasure potency. Ladinir Sara Amsha Tara Premanam Ananda Chinmoy Rasa Premara Akyan. The most essential part of this pleasure potency is love of Godhead, prema. Consequently, the explanation of love of Godhead is also a transcendental mellow, full of pleasure. The essential part of Krishna's pleasure potency is called prema, love of Godhead. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Prema Rakyan. This pleasure potency is full of happiness. Consequently, the explanation of love of God, it is also a transcendental mellow full of pleasure. There's also pleasure explaining love of God. Primera Paramasara Mahabhava Jani Se Mahabhava Rup Radha Thakurani. The essential part of love of God, it is called Mahabhava, transcendental ecstasy. And that ecstasy is represented by Srimati Radharani, or the form of that Mahabhava is Srimati Radharani. Tvayor api ubayor madhye radhika sarvatadika Mahabhava swarupeyam gunar ativariyasi. Among the gopis of Vrindavan, Srimati Radharani and another gopi are considered chief. But when we compare the gopis, it appears that Srimati Radharani is most important because her real feature expresses the highest ecstasy of love. The ecstasy of love experienced by the other gopis cannot be compared to that of Srimati Radharani. Premara Swarupa Deho Prema Vibhavita Krishnera Preyasi Shrestha Jagate Vidita. The body of Srimati Radharani is a veritable transformation of love of Godhead. She is the dearmost friend of Krishna, and this is known throughout the world. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavita Bis Tabirya eva nija rupataya kalabi Goloka eva nivasati akilatma bhuto Govindamari parusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who resides in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, who resembles his own spiritual figure and who embodies the ecstatic potency, Ladini. Their companions are her confidants, who embody extensions of her bodily form and who are imbued and permeated with ever blissful spiritual rasa. Say Mahabhava hoy Chintamani sar Krishna Bansha Purnakori ek Karyatar. The supreme ecstasy of Srimati Radharani is the essence of spiritual life. Her only business is to fulfill all the desires of Krishna. Mahabhava Chintamani Radhara Swarup Lalitari Sakitara Kaya Vyuharup. Srimati Radharani is the topmost spiritual gem, and the other gopis, Lalita, Vishaka, and so on, are expansions of her spiritual body. Radha Prati Krishna Sneha Sugandhi Udvartan Tate Asti Sugandhi Deho Ujjvala Bharan. Srimati Radharani's transcendental body is brilliant in luster and full of all fragrances. Full of all transcendental fragrances, Lord Krishna's affection for her is like a perfumed massage. Karunyamrita Dharaya Sneho Pratama Tarunyamrita Dharaya Snana Madhyama. Srimati Radharani takes her first bath in the shower of the nectar of compassion, and she takes her second bath in the nectar of youth. Lavanyamrita Dharaya Taduparisnan Nijalaja Shama Pata Sati Paridan. After her midday bath, Radharani takes another bath in the nectar of bodily luster, and she puts on the garment of shyness, which is her black silk sari. Krishnanuraga Dvitiya Arunavasan Pranaya Mana Kanchuliki. Krishnanuraga Dvitiya Arunavasan Pranaya Mana Kanchulikaya Vaksha Achadan. Srimati Radharani's affection for Krishna is her upper garment, which is pinkish in color. She then covers her breast with another garment composed of affection and anger towards Krishna. Sundarya Kunkuma Saki Pranavai Chandan Smita Kanti Karpura Tine Ange Vilepan. Srimati Radharani's personal beauty is the reddish powder known as kumkum. Her affection for her associates is sandalwood pulp, and the sweetness of her smile is camphor. All these combined together are smeared over her body. Krishnera Ujjvala Rasa Mrigamada Bar Se Mrigamade Vichit Rita Kolevar. Conjugal love for Krishna is an abundance of musk, and with that musk her whole body is decorated. Prachanamana Vamya Damila Vinyas Prachanamana Vamya Damila Vinyas Dira Dirat Makaguna Ange Patabas. Craftiness and covered anger constitute the arrangement of her hair. The quality of anger due to jealousy is the silk garment covering her body. Raga Tambula Rage Adara Ujjvala Prema Kotilya Netra Jugale Kajala. Her attachment for Krishna is the reddish color of betel nuts on her brilliant lips. Her double dealings in loving affairs constitute the black ointment around her eyes. Sudipta Satvika Bhava Harshadi Sanchari Esa Baba Bhushana Saba Ange Bari. The ornaments decorating her body are the blazing ecstasies of goodness and the constantly existing ecstasies headed by jubilation. All these ecstasies are the ornaments all over her body. Kila Kinshi Tadi Baba Vamshati Bhushita Gunashreni Pushpamala Sarvange Purita. Also ornamenting her body are the 20 kinds of ecstatic symptoms, beginning with Kila Kinchita. Her transcendental qualities constitute the flower garland hanging in fullness over her body. So Bhagyati Laka Charu Lalate Ujjvala Prema Vaichitya Ratna Hridaya Taral. The tilak of good fortune is on her beautiful broad forehead. Her various loving affairs are a gem, and her heart is the locket. Madhya Bayasa Saki Skande Karanyas Krishna-lila Manovritti Saki Ashapash. Srimati Radharani's gopi friends are her mental activities, which are concentrated on the pastimes of Sri Krishna. She keeps her hand on the shoulder of a friend who represents youth. Nijanga Surabalaye Garva Paryanka Tatebasiache Sada Shinte Krishna Sangha. Srimati Radharani's bedstead is pride itself, and it is situated in the abode of her bodily aroma. She is always seated there, thinking of Krishna's association. Krishna Nama Guna Jasha Avatam Shakane Krishna Nama Guna Jasha Pravaha Vachane. Srimati Radharani's earrings are the name, fame, and qualities of Krishna. The glories of Krishna's name, fame, and qualities are always inundating her speech. Krishna Ke Karaya Shama Rasa Madhupan Nirantara Purna Kore Krishnara Sarvakam. Srimati Radharani induces Krishna to drink the honey of the conjugal relationship. She is therefore engaged in satisfying all the lusty desires of Krishna. Krishnara Vishuddha Prema Ratnarakar Anupama Gunagana Purna Kolebar. Srimati Radharani is a mine filled with valuable jewels of love for Krishna. Her transcendental body is complete with unparalleled spiritual qualities. Ka Krishnasya Pranaya Jani Bhu Srimati Radhikaika Kasya Preyasi Anupama Guna Radhikaika Nachanya Jaimyam Keshi Drishi Taralata Nishturatvam Kuchesha Vansha Purjai Prabhavati Hare Radhikaika Nachanya. If one asked about the origin of love of Krishna, the answer is that the origin is in Srimati Radharani alone. Who is the most dear friend of Krishna? The answer again is Srimati Radharani alone. No one else. Srimati Radharani's hair is very curly. Her two eyes are always moving to and fro, and her breasts are firm. Since all qualities, all divine qualities are manifested in Srimati Radharani, she alone is able to fulfill all the desires of Krishna, no one else. Jara Sobhagya Guna Banshe Satyabhama Jaratai Kala Vilasa Shiki Brajarama Jara Sondar Jari Guna Vanshe Lakshmi Parvati Jarapati Vrata Dharma Vanshe Arundhati. Even Satyabhama, one of the queens of Sri Krishna, desires the fortunate position and excellent qualities of Srimati Radharani. All the gopis learn the art of dressing from Srimati Radharani, and even the goddess of fortune Lakshmi and the wife of Lord Shiva, Parvati, desire her beauty and qualities. Indeed, Arundhati, the celebrated chaste wife of Vasishta, also wants to imitate the chastity and religious principles of Srimati Radharani. Jara Sadguna Ganane Krishna Napai Par Jaraguna Ganibe Kemone Jivachar. Even Krishna himself cannot reach the limit of the divine qualities of Srimati Radharani. How then can an insignificant living entity count them? Prabhu kohe janilun Krishna Radha prema tattva shunite chahiye dun hara vilasa mahatva. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "Now I have come to understand the truth of the loving affairs between Radha and Krishna. Nevertheless, I still want to hear how both of them gloriously enjoy such love." Raya kohe Krishna hoy dira lalita nirantara kama krida jahara charita. Rai Ramananda replied, "Sri Krishna is dira lalita, for he can always keep his girlfriends in a subjugated state. Thus his only business is enjoying." Vidagdo nava tarunya parihasa visharada nischinto dira lalita shatpraya priyasivasha. A person who is very cunning and always youthful, expert in joking and without anxiety, and who can keep his girlfriends always subjugated, is called dira lalita. Ratridina kunje krida kore rada sange kaishara bayasa safala koila krida range. Day and night, Sri Krishna enjoys the company of Srimati Radharani in the bushes of Vrindavan. Thus, his pre-youthful age is fulfilled through his affairs with Srimati Radharani. Bacha Suchita Sarvari Rati Kala Pragaubhyaya Radhikam Frida Kunshita Lochanam Virachayan Agre Sakinam Asol Tad Vaksoruha Chitra Keli Makari Panditya Paramgata Kaishoram Safali Karoti Kalayan Kunje Viharam Hari. Thus, Sri Krishna spoke of the sexual activities of the previous night. In this way, he made Srimati Radharani close her eyes out of shyness. Taking this opportunity, Krishna painted various types of dolphins on her breasts. Thus, he became a very expert artist for all the gopis. During such pastimes, the Lord enjoyed the fulfillment of his youth. Prabhu kohe eho hoy age kohoar raya kohe iha bai buddhi gati nahiar. Mahaprabhu said, this is good, but please continue. At that time, Rai Ramananda replied, "I don't think my intelligence goes beyond this." Jeba prema vilasa vivarte hoy tahashuni tomara sukha hoy kina hoy. Sri Rai Ramananda then informed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that there was another topic known as Prema Vilasa Vivarta. "You may hear this from me," Ramananda Roy said, "but I do not know whether you will be happy with it or not." Eta boli apana kritagita ek gahila preme prabhu swahaste taramukha charila. Saying this, Ramananda Raya began to sing a song he had composed, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of the ecstasy of love of Godhead, immediately covered Ramananda's mouth with his own hand. Pahilehi raga nayana bhange bela anudina bodhala abadina gela naso ramana na hamar ramani duha manu baba peshala jani esaki se sab prema kahini kanutame kahabe vichurala jani na konjalun duti na konjalunan duhu keri milane madhya ta panchaban absohi viraga tuhu beli duti na puruka premaki aichanariti. Alas, before we met, there was an initial attachment between us, brought about by an exchange of glances. In this way, attachment evolved. That attachment has gradually grown, and there is no limit to it. Now that attachment has become a natural sequence between ourselves. It is not that it is due to Krishna, the enjoyer, nor is it due to me, for I am the enjoyed. It is not like that. This attachment was made possible by mutual meeting. This mutual exchange of attraction is known as Manobhava, or Cupid. Krishna's mind and my mind have merged together. Now, during this time of separation, it is very difficult to explain these loving affairs. My dear friend, though Krishna might have forgotten all these things, you can understand and bring this message to him. But during our first meeting, there was no messenger between us, nor did I request anyone to see him. Indeed, Cupid's 5 arrows are via media. Now, during this separation, that attraction has increased to another ecstatic state. My dear friend, please act as a messenger on my behalf, because if one is in love with a beautiful person, this is the consequence. So Srila Govindamar says the melting of Radha and Krishna together, that the term for that is tarmoyi. Radhaya Bhuvatas. Let's see. These verses were originally composed and sung by Ramananda Raya himself. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur suggests that during the time of conjugal enjoyment, the attachment might be compared to Cupid himself. However, during the period of separation, Cupid becomes a messenger of highly elevated love. This is called prema vilasa vivarta. When there is separation, conjugal enjoyment itself acts like a messenger, and that messenger was addressed by Srimati Radharani as a friend. The essence of this transaction is that transcendental loving affairs are as relishable during separation as during conjugal enjoyment. When Srimati Radharani was fully absorbed in love of Krishna, she mistook a black tamal tree for Krishna and embraced it. Such a mistake is called prema vilasa vivarta. Radhaya bhavatas cha chitta jatuni svedar vilapya kramad yunjan adri nikunja kunjarapate nirduta beda brahmam chitraya swayam anvaran jayad iha brahmanda harmyodare bhuyobir navaraga hingula barai shringara karu kriti. O my Lord, you live in the forest of Govardhan Hill, and like the king of elephants, you are expert in the art of conjugal love. O Master of the universe, your heart and Srimati Radharani's heart are just like shellac and are now melted in your spiritual perspiration. Therefore, one can no longer distinguish between you and Srimati Radharani. Now you have mixed your newly invoked affection, which is like vermilion, with your melted hearts. And for the benefit of the whole world, you have painted both your hearts red within this great palace of the universe. Prabhu ko he sadya bastura abadi e hoy tomara prasadi iha janilun nischoy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirmed these verses recited by Sri Ramananda Raya, saying, "This is the limit of the goal of human life. Only by your mercy have I come to understand it conclusively." So I'm going to stop here and let's see, tomorrow's Saturday. I want to continue with this. So, but tomorrow, today is Friday, tomorrow we have a meeting with all the Spanish-speaking devotees. That starts at 8. But possibly if we start this right after Kirtan, we can read a little bit and then go to the meeting. All right. So, Maharaj, you want to sing Hari Harai? You can take it. Sí, yo creo que la pila está bien. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudana. Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohana. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Garadhara Sri Vasari Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha. Echai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jao Ete Vignana Shabista Puran. Echai Gosai Jar Muitaradan. Kasabara Padarenu Mora Panchagras. Tadir Charana Sevi Bhakta Saniba. Janame More Amilas. Echai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas. Radha Krishna Nitya-lila Korila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Garanga Gandharvika Giridhari Jo Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishoredas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Premsigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Vishvavaranya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Jo Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Sripad Bhakti Bandhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Srila Pavan Janardan